Okay, my name is Mayra. I am from Buenos Aires, Argentina. I am a UX researcher at Edgar Allan, and I mostly do research to inform content, design, UX, anything that needs informing, I would say. I think my role at Edgar Allan is important because it helps us set up the scene, maybe. I'm usually at the very early stages of the projects, trying to figure out what the business requirement is, what the user needs are. So it sort of like help us get everyone what they need to, everyone else on the team get some initial thoughts on what they need to succeed. Depending on who I'm talking to. And I think one of the things we're probably going to be talking about today is stakeholder interviews. And I thought this was an interesting topic to talk about because usually when you go online and try to, understand what a UX researcher does, there's a lot of information and resources about interviewing users. But I feel like stakeholders are also an important audience to talk to when we're thinking about designing or redesigning a website. The first thing that usually happens when we do a project here at EA is we try to figure out what the website should do. So some websites are kind of like replacing online processes, and we could think about like a marketplace being a replacement of an actual store that may or may have not existed, but that's what it's trying to do. And then in some other cases, and this is probably the kind of projects that we get the most, we are actually supporting what happens offline. So we're not replacing it, we're supporting it. And you could think about, marketing websites like this. Our clients usually want to advertise themselves or bring some like brand awareness, or they want to use this website as a business tool. But it's not really, building a marketplace that's replacing something that's already happening offline. The kinds of insights that we can get from stakeholder interviews are plenty. They sort of like help us connect the dots between that offline, processes or those customer interactions that happen offline. And build a website that helps make those interactions better, or help streamline some processes or their entire business. And I believe that stakeholder interviews are important because they sort of like become our guiding principles or North Stars. They make sure that we are on the right track, and they make sure that we're not only thinking about the audiences, but also thinking about the business goals behind that client reaching us, is that what I'm saying? Sorry. That was a good take. Okay. Getting back to us and saying, hey, we want to do this. So we need to understand the reason why behind it, and what is it that they're trying to achieve, in order for us to meet their expectations and meet the end user expectations as well. All right, so there are 5 insights that we can get from stakeholder interviews. These are learning about the website's primary purpose. Audience identification, so basically understanding who the audience is and what is it that they need to do. Competitive landscape assessment, so understanding who the competitors are. And audience discovery channels, understanding basically how clients get to you. And just content relevance and prioritization. We can go through some of these, or all of these individually. I think think that could be helpful. So let's start with website's primary purpose. So these type of interviews help us understand precisely what the website is meant to achieve, and the actions that we want visitors to take to support those business goals. So when we talk to stakeholders, we can learn if this website is meant to build trust and credibility, bring, brand awareness, or if it's meant to be like an informational website, resource hub, or, what is it that we're trying to communicate here? But also, what kind of actions do we want visitors to take? So do we want them to sign up for a newsletter? Do we want them to give you a call at the very end? Do we want them to get in touch with someone on your team? So by defining what the ultimate goal is, we can also define what is the roadmap of different actions and information the user might be encountering along the way to reach that ultimate goal. Another thing that it can help us understand is basically who their audiences are. Stakeholder interviews can help us understand, what the primary and secondary target audiences look like. So we can learn not only about their demographic, but also like what their pain points are, what their motivations are. It's very often when we're building the site, we have, that end user, that client, customer in mind. But a lot of times, for example, and this happens with pretty much every company that we got to work with, they are also maybe interested in building a site that portrays them as a great employer. So they might also have the secondary audience of just like, someone that's trying to get a job and that may want to work with us, might also want to see us, portrayed under the best light possible. So talking to stakeholders help us understand, what are those maybe not that apparent audiences that they may be also trying to target. The third thing would be the competitive landscape. So one of the questions that I'm constantly asking stakeholders is where does their company sit? And what does that competitive landscape look like? Because this will help us understand not only, who else out there is doing something similar that they might be doing, but also what are they doing differently and what's setting them apart. So this is great to inform content, for example, so they can focus on creating a story where they can really highlight those strengths that the company might have, or make sure that they're basically just communicating what is it that our client is doing differently, and why anyone visiting the site should choose them. And last but not least, we got two more. We have the audience discovery channels. So we talked about like getting to know the audiences a little bit better. One of the things that's important is understanding how this potential visitor or prospect learns about our client. If it's, through organic or proactive means, you could say. We work with a lot of VC clients, for example, and people are not usually just going on Google and typing, growth equity or VC. They usually meet someone in real life, and then that's part of a VC or part of a growth equity firm. And they might come back to Google and type in that person's name, and that's how they end up reaching this client website. So it's important to understand if that's the case, if that's how clients are learning about you, then what can we do on the website that sort of like helps them find what they're looking for more easily, helps them find that team member or that portfolio company that might spark their interest and have them reach out to you. And last but not least, it's content relevance. So talking to stakeholders can help us provide some insights on like, what is the audience seeking? What is what is one thing that's maybe a misconception that they might have about your business or the type of work that you do or the services that you provide. So we can make sure that we're clarifying that, and we're also just like bridging any knowledge gap that we can find along the way, or make it easier for them to find certain information quicker, more clearly. So definitely getting the chance to talk to stakeholders help us prioritize the type of information, make sure that we're using the right language, that we are, making sure that people are going to be able to find something that's going to resonate with them. Yes, I think a successful stakeholder interview that we had on a project, one of the key questions that help us understand our client better was like asking where they currently sit on the competitive landscape. This was a newer firm, you could say. So understanding how they were mostly hoping to use the site to build confidence in their expertise, and just, ensuring that they are not the industry newcomers, and that they are people that have acquired experience, even though the firm was kind of new, was really, really helpful. It helped us inform the storytelling, and helped us make sure that we were, featuring their team members that were that had the most experience a little bit better, make their portfolio companies profile a little bit more qualitative than quantitative, so that there was a storytelling behind that helped us understand the strong bonds that they formed with their, through their partnerships. So we had to really understand where they were right now, to try and see how we could sort of strengthen their best features on the website, and help them maybe breach those advantages that maybe some other firms that were in their industry for longer had over them.